What's up guys, Chris here from Signs of Life. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna build some dark ambient from scratch. You know, dark ambient music is all about depth and immersion, and it's October, right? So I thought, what better way to celebrate the season than to dive into the darkness and work on some dark ambient music. I'm gonna be using a mixture of free and paid software, but as a reminder, there's always free alternatives, and I'll be using Ableton Live 12, but feel free to follow along in any other DAW of your choice. All right, so dark ambient music can be anywhere between 50 and 90 beats per minute. I'm gonna be playing in 70 beats per minute here, and I'll be playing in F minor, but your mileage may vary, so feel free to use any tempo that you want. Where I thought we'd start is with a drone, okay? And for that drone, I'm actually gonna use Vital here. So Vital is a free synthesizer, most people have it, and it's really great and suited for this style of drone that we're gonna work on. So we're gonna start with a wavetable. And the wavetable that I'm gonna use is from Chromatic 2. Now you could use something from the factory library, totally fine, but I'm gonna use a Chromatic 2 wavetable. And if you don't have Chromatic 2, the link is down below in the description. I'll use Chromatic 2 table number 19 here, and I'm gonna play a nice low F0 note like this. Excellent, and I'll move the position slider up here to the middle, and I'll add some voices of unison here, maybe 8 voices of unison, and lower the detune amount down to around 10 or 11%. Excellent, all right? Now what we're gonna do is use random 1 as our master random, all right? So we're gonna use that random on a bunch of different destinations. So go ahead and play your F0 note, and we'll grab random 1 and drag it over to the position slider here. Excellent. And we'll put random 1 on sync mode, stereo mode, and switch the tempo down to 2/1. Excellent. Now I'm gonna draw your attention over to the advanced tab, because what we're gonna do is we're going to take that same random and put it onto the table spread and the spectral spread. Very nice. So now you can see on the oscilloscope, we're really starting to separate out those waveforms. Come back over to the voice tab. Let's adjust our ADSNR here. So attack at around 5 seconds, maybe 6 seconds. Decay around the same, lower the sustain down, up the release. Back on out, there we go. We're off to a good start. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a sample. Now the sample I'm gonna use is from my good friend Luftdrum, from his Luftdrum's free field recordings. So if you don't have that, go ahead and Google it, Luftdrum's free field recordings, and you're gonna find it. And what we're gonna do is grab one of those free field recordings. I'm gonna use Music Box, and this is gonna give us a real creepy, kind of dark ambient horror vibe. Oh yeah, love that. You can pitch lock this by clicking on this button right here, make it backwards and forwards. Now let's take that same random and move it over to the pitch slider here on the left. Oh yeah, now we don't know which way is up. I love that. Cool, let's turn on filter number 1, and that's gonna start filtering out the main oscillator. The sample oscillator is still going through the effects. We want that, that's good. And now let's take that same random again and drag it over to the cutoff slider over here. And we're really starting to separate this out in stereo. You can hear that. Oh yeah. Super creepy, right? Love it. So with just one wavetable and one free sample, this is where we are. Okay, hit the effects tab and let's add a multi-band compressor here. Take the lows out of it, maybe adjust the mix, up the attack and release. Oh yeah, so good. We will add some delay here, make it a ping pong delay. I'm gonna go with, say, half dotted and 16th notes here. Really put us off center. Let's add a distortion module. I'm gonna choose downsample distortion. Lower the mix down to around 50%. And we'll use that same random again on the drive. Oh yeah. Now we're starting to get some grit out of it. And finally, let's add some reverb. Not just a little bit of reverb, a lot of reverb. Size around 80%, time around 15 seconds, and up the mix to around 45%. Oh yeah. Very nice. Final touch here, maybe you take that same random, put it onto the oscillator unison detune, lower it down ever so slightly. Oh, that sounds great. So now our random 1 is going to 7 different destinations. Sounds good to me, all right? So if yours sounds anything like this, we're in business. All right, so let's move over to arrangement view here. I'm gonna drag a nice long MIDI note all the way across my timeline. So this MIDI clip is around 160 bars long. And what you can do is just drag that F0 all the way across. And then if you want to, you can turn off the fixed grid by unclicking snap to grid and start drawing in some more upper harmonics, if you will. So again, this is a long time frame here. So think about it. If you want maybe an octave to come in here, maybe a C2 note comes in, A flat, anything you want. Again, we're playing an F minor here. So like your mileage may vary, but just go ahead and draw in some extra notes if you want. Why not, you know? It's Dark Ambient here. Sounded good to me. I was drawing some extra notes over here on the end. Oh yeah. Cool. All right, great. So let's let this play. Excellent. Now, one more thing we're gonna do in Vital before we move on is we're actually going to open up Vital again and we'll make a second random here. And this random is gonna adjust our volumes. Right now it's all on all the time. What I want is these two things kind of moving in and out, right? So we'll take the second random and we'll put the tempo on 16/1. We'll put it in sync mode. And now let's lower down the level of oscillator 1 and we'll drag that random up to the level. All right? And we'll do the same thing for the sample. Nice. So now what's happening is we have these we have these slow, long changes that are happening with our waveforms, all right? And I love this because this is exactly what we want, all right? We want these things moving in space. They're changing positions because it's random. I love this. Again, you could use 8/1 here. It doesn't have to be 16/1. However fast or slow you want to go. Sounded great to me. All right, cool. I've got a PowerPoint plan, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, first point I want to make is a drone is just the start, all right? A good quality drone can be the foundation for your track and beyond. By splitting up the layers, you're opening up more possibilities for further processing and arrangement in your track. We're gonna come back to that in a second. Use multiple drones to build immersion, spread across the octave ranges, and bring out subtle harmonic changes over time, all right? So this was just one drone. Like we just made something out of a wavetable and a free sample. Now let's add a second drone to this and further weave those two waveforms in and out, all right? You see those subtle harmonic changes? They're really starting to pay off. All right, cool. Let's come back to our track here. For our second drone, what I thought we'd do is use pigments. Why? Well, pigments has granular on board, all right? And that's what we want to use in sort of contrast to this original drone, all right? Let's go ahead and turn down the volume here. So with pigments, of course, what I'm gonna do is switch engine 1 to sample, and we're gonna pick a sample here. I'm not gonna have you guys go chasing samples, so I'll use something from the factory library here. Let's use, say, the Jungle Busy sound, all right? This is cool, Jungle Busy. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna play like an F1 note, but we're gonna move the start position around here, okay? We're also gonna put it in granular mode by clicking on the power button in the middle, all right? Now, how are we gonna move this around? Well, we can move it around with an LFO, or we can combine two LFOs to have sort of a combination and a random LFO. First things first, ADSR. So, attack around 5 seconds, decay around the same, sustain 80%, up to release to around 6 seconds. Okay, now let's take LFO1 and make it a slow LFO. And we'll leave LFO2 as it is. And we'll come over to the Combinate tab, and we're gonna combine these two LFOs, okay? So, type can be multiply, source can be LFO1, mod can be LFO2, and up the amount. Now you can see we have this beautiful random LFO here. Love that. We can take that and drag Combinate 1 over to the start position. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now you can hear some of those jungle sounds are starting to come out. You can adjust the initial start position. Love that. Perfect. Great. Now let's add some effects to bring out some more of the details here. So we'll take off the 2 default effects. We'll start out with a multi-band compressor. Oh yeah, there's that jungle, right? Up the attack, up the release. Maybe change some of the highs. There we go. Excellent. Now we will add a bit crusher here. And maybe we'll up the dry wet to around 30%. We'll use that same combinate on the downsample itself. Oh yeah. Starting to break up those waveforms. Maybe add an EQ here. Take the lows out of it. Bring out some detail. Very nice. Love that. Now let's add a reverb, of course. Take the pre-delay out. Size around 3 o'clock. Decay around the same. And of course, we'll add a shimmer reverb here on the end. Up the feedback, up the size, and lower down the dry wet to around 10% for a nice little touch on the end. Okay, so we got that. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to add a nice slow LFO to our volume, okay? So it's really going to start mixing in with that initial drone. So let's take LFO 3 and put it in random mode over here. We'll smooth it out, and we'll slow down the tempo to really slow, like 0.055. And we'll drag LFO 3 over to the volume slider. So now our jungle's coming in and out. Our volume's coming in and out. Slow down the filter here, make it a low pass 12. Use that same LFO on the filter if you want. Slow, subtle changes. Love this. Oh yeah, this is great. Let's add a little bit more volume here with our multiband. Up the volume here again of our initial drone. Excellent. All right, let's draw another long MIDI clip. Again, this is F1 I'm playing here. We'll draw on a nice low, slow note here. Oh yeah. But because we did all that work with the volume automation, now we're really starting to mix those waveforms back and forth. So this is point number 1, but I think I made my point clear. Like a drone is just the start, right? But if you use multiple drones, you can start to spread across the octave ranges and really bring out those subtle harmonic changes. As you saw, I added some more, higher notes, just kind of sprinkled those in. But like over time, that's gonna pay off because we're gonna be in these different zones where one drone is coming down, the other drone is coming up, and you're gonna reach that harmonic point where they meet. And then you're gonna have this mixture of this magical area in between. Love that. So that's the first point. A drone is just the start. Moving on to point number 2 here, use the entire frequency spectrum. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make when creating dark ambient music is not using the entire frequency spectrum, particularly on the high end. I meet a lot of guys who are like cutting off their music at 6K, and especially my clients, and I'm like, yo, you just can't do that, right? So we're gonna talk about that in a second. If you can use the entire frequency spectrum in a creative way, you'll increase the amount of depth for the listener and increase the quality of your output, all right? So let's go back to our track here, and what I'm gonna do is drag in a Span plugin. Now, Span is a free plugin from Voxango, and I use it to analyze all of my frequencies in every one of my tracks. This is on the master fader here. And you can see the entire frequency spectrum. We got some nice detail on the high end, right? However, there's 2 areas that I really want to focus on right now. We have a little bit too much in the mids right here, in this sort of like 600 to 4K zone. That's the trouble zone for most people. And then not enough bass response down here, all right? We're looking for something a little more full on the low end and definitely some detail on the high end with a nice scoop in the mids, all right? So if you bandwidth the Span, you can hold down Control or Command on a Mac. You can sort of analyze what's going on in each part of the frequency spectrum. And I think here, our drone is responsible for that. So let's go over to our vital drone here once again, and we're gonna pull down the filter. There we go. Oh yeah, very nice. Love that. Oh yeah, very dark ambient like now. Excellent. Now let's add a third drone. And that third drone is really gonna fill out those high-end details. Now, what I'm gonna use for this is Omnisphere. Now I know that triggers a lot of people because a lot of people don't have Omnisphere, but hear me out. Omnisphere is a great synthesizer. It's got the best library of any synthesizer ever created, right? Arguably. And yeah, we're gonna switch it over to sample here. I'll adjust my ADSR to around 6 seconds. Up the release, there we go. And we'll grab a sample from the psychoacoustic library. I'm gonna grab this sample right here. How about the double gourd rattle pills? I have no idea, but hey, it works, right? Now what I'm gonna do, instead of just kind of hitting the sample, is I'm gonna turn on the granular engine here. And I'm gonna switch it from speed to position, all right? And now you can hear, we got a little more rattle pills. Let me go ahead and solo this track here, okay? Let's stop the track. I'll solo this track. Oh yeah. Very nice. Now we can move this position slider with an LFO, okay? So you can right click on it, click modulate, modulate with LFO, lower down the depth. There we go. Nice. Excellent, slow down the rate to around 0.03. So now we're moving this position slider. You can adjust the smoothing, maybe the pitch grains. Let's come over to the effects tab, add like a precision compressor here. Up the input, up the sustain. Oh yeah. Let's come over to the effects, add an inner space. Oh yes. Textural, environmental, fire. Oh yeah. We'll go scatter. How about AC scrape number 1? Oh my goodness. Let's listen to the rest of this with our track. Go ahead and play this. Oh my goodness. So good. Now, we added a compressor. We added inner space. You can hear how beautiful that is. Oh yeah, so good. Let's talk about effects here, all right? What I wanna do is I wanna tie in some effects here on the master fader. And you know, this cannot be more straight to the point. You can either use a send effect or you could tie everything together on the master, right? I'm gonna do the latter because I feel like this is probably better for you guys so you can understand how these things come together, all right? So let's add, say, a compressor here on the master fader. Rarely ever do this, but it's gonna work in context. So we'll lower down the threshold, okay? We'll add a bunch of attack, bunch of release, turn off the auto gain, okay? And we're sort of gelling this whole thing together, all right? It's kind of a DIY approach. Love that. And now let's add a reverb on the end of this, all right? This is really gonna tie our track together. We're on a super massive here on the end. And let's grab a preset from Caspia. This is from my good buddy, Don Tyler. And Caspia came out, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, and it's still pay what you want on material. So if you don't have Caspia, highly recommend it. Links down below in the description, all right? So let's use, say, the ambient horizon. Oh yeah. There we go. Lower down the mix to around 45%. And now we have a compressor going into that. Now let's play Omnisphere again. Oh yeah. You see what I'm talking about? So now we've taken that scrape, we're moving around the position in space, but we're filling out that entire high-end detail. All right? Let's add another MIDI clip here. I'm gonna drag in some octaves. F1, F2, there we go. You can space these out if you want. Perfect. You can alternate, go back and forth. Maybe add a C note in here. Maybe a short C note, there we go. drag this F all the way out, turn off the fixed grid. Again, I'm just kind of going freestyle here, but like, this works. All right, add another F2, and we'll drag this all the way out. Perfect, excellent. Now let's look at our frequency spectrum, all right? We'll drag this back to the beginning and look at the entire thing, okay? Now you can see on the frequency that we've really started to fill at that high end. Like it's in. Like I love that because now that detail can come in and out. And as those other drones are floating underneath it, we're like in that super liminal space, right? Things are starting to shine. You could take another random LFO on Omnisphere. Omnisphere does have random LFOs. And we'll adjust our volume here. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Maybe even use a filter on it. And we'll say modulate with LFO. LFO can go from free to random. Take the rate down to a very slow rate. There we go. Now we're moving this filter, which is increasing our immersion and depth here. Oh yeah. Very nice. Put on unipolar mode. There we go. Yes. Yes. There we go. All right. Excellent. Let's go ahead and loop this section right here. And we'll go back to our PowerPoint. So I think I made that point clear, is that utilizing the entire frequency spectrum really does add depth and immersion, right? You saw me, I took the filter down to vital, I upped the frequency by adding Omnisphere and adding that sample. Again, your mileage may vary, you could use a sample from your library, but you know, tying it all together with compression and reverb now, everything's going to the same compressor, everything's going to the same reverb. Now listen to where we are. We still got a ways to go, but we utilize the entire frequency spectrum and we're moving on in our Dark Ambient track. Moving on to point number 3, create highlights to build interest. Even in Dark Ambient, there are highlights or moments of clarity where the frequency spectrum opens up the opportunity for more melodic elements to come through. Create these moments using alternative synthesis and processing methods, such as using buried sequences and reverb to utilize this effect. So what I'm talking about here is using more melodic elements like sequences, like we do in our other ambient tutorials, to kind of bring in these moments of clarity, right? And what I'm gonna do is actually use a sequence in a Dark Ambient track, which sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out, all right? So let's go back to the tutorial here. Now, what I'm gonna do is grab Vital. And with Vital, I'm actually going to make a sequence, and then I'm gonna bury that sequence in reverb here. So grab Vital, and I'm not gonna have you guys chase after any other wavetables. Let's just go with the factory library here and go to Drink the Juice, all right? Drink the Juice. And what we're gonna do is use a random LFO here, okay? We're gonna take that and put it on the position. We're going to sync it up and put it on, say, 1/1, all right? And it's just gonna sound like this. Nothing crazy, just drink the juice, right? Now, what we're also gonna do is we're going to pitch lock this. So we're gonna take a second random LFO, we're gonna put it in sync mode, stereo mode, and we're going to put it on sample and hold, and we're gonna put it at 16th notes. We're gonna drag this random LFO over to the pitch, okay? And we're going to pitch lock it. So we're gonna click on the little pitch keyboard here, and I'm gonna choose the first 3 notes, because this is Dark Ambient. We don't really want a full-on like major or minor scale. I'm gonna go with just a cluster chord. So C, D, E flat, simple. Now, you can hear it goes way high in the frequency spectrum, and I purposely did that to show you how to fix it, all right? So what we're gonna do here is hover over the wheel, and you can see it says random to 48 semitones. We don't want that. We actually want it to be 12 semitones, which is 1 full octave, all right? So now, that's exactly what we want, all right? So 1 full octave on 3 notes, sounding good, all right? Let's turn on filter number 1, okay? And what we can do is use random number 1 to move this filter back and forth. Put it in stereo mode, there we go. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. So as you can hear, we have like a sequence that's kind of buried there in the background. Let's bury it even deeper. This is Dark Ambient here, all right? Let's grab a reverb. I'm gonna use Supermassive, all right? You can use any reverb you want here. I'm gonna use a preset from Caspia again. Caspia, the Glass Shore. Oh yes. That's absolutely gorgeous. So as you can hear, now that sequence is fully buried underneath there. You can try different octaves out, see what works for you. Oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous. We can use another random to modulate the volume again. So it's really starting to float in and out. Oh my gosh, I love that. Wow. And for Dark Ambient, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. All right, let's create a MIDI clip here. I'm playing what, an F2 note? Go ahead and draw in a MIDI clip all the way across. Start from the beginning. There we go. All right, so we created this sequence, but we drenched it in reverb. But that really brought out some melodic highlights, right? So again, using melodic elements in a Dark Ambient track totally works, okay? Now, let's look at our frequency spectrum again, because I really want to see where we're at now. Because we have these beautiful high-end details. We made an omnisphere. We've got some nice mid-range coming in with that sequence now. But what we're lacking is a good, healthy bass response, and that's gonna gel the entire thing together, all right? So let's add a bass. Now, I'm gonna use Vital again for bass. You could use any other synth here. Vital's a great choice though. So what I'm gonna do before I even get there, I'll go ahead and duplicate this MIDI clip down, and I'll go ahead and switch the note from F2 to F0. Shift, down, down, all right? Perfect. So now I have an F0 down here. I think I moved the note. There we go. Excellent. All right, cool. So now we got our bass note. Let's add Vital right here. And what we're gonna do is we're actually going to do just like a basic sawtooth waveform. Gonna be very simple, nothing crazy, okay? So let's go ahead and just draw in this F note right here. There we go. Excellent. Now we're gonna go ahead and just start with a sawtooth bass. Add a filter. 24, low pass, okay? You can already hear it coming in. Add like 5 voices of unison. Lower the detune amount to around 7%. Beautiful. Take a random LFO, sync it up, stereo. 1/1. Pull that over to the cutoff filter. Oh yeah. Absolutely gorgeous. Because we already have a reverb on our master fader, we're already getting that sense of space, right? Doesn't need to be much. Come over to the advanced tab, look at the oscilloscope. Beautiful slow waveforms moving in and out. That's exactly what you want. Nothing too crazy. You could add another oscillator here and put it straight through direct out. So what I'll do is I'll switch this to direct out. I'll change the wavetable to basic shapes, then turn it on. Now we have a low sine wave underneath our oscillator that's going direct out, skipping the effects. You can see the change on the oscilloscope. Got that beautiful sine wave now. Let's go back to our span once again, and now look. Now we have a beautiful bass on the low end, which is in motion. We got these beautiful details on the high end, the mid-range. Everything's starting to come together, all right? So that brings me to point number 3, is that we really started to develop these highlights and create these highlights to build interest. Because we didn't go crazy with the sequence, but we buried it just enough so it's floating in and out. It's kind of nestled underneath our track. Love it. Can't be happier. All right, so final point here. Bring it all together at the end. When arranging your track, let the elements you've created naturally flow together by tying them together using reverb and spatial effects. We did this, all right? So we took a compressor and put it on our master fader, which I never really do, but for Dark Ambient, it totally works because all the different elements are flowing together and you're sort of gelling the whole thing and then putting a reverb on top of it to make it sort of the master reverb that everything is going through, all right? Your track should have impact and moments of clarity and discovery that will keep your listener coming back for more on repeated listens. So that's why we did all that work with the LFOs. Let the LFOs tell their own story, right? Let them flow in and out. We added higher notes for more melodic elements. We added more reverb and spatial effects. Everything's coming together. Hide details away in plain sight, right? Like you can hear like that sequence is like, where is that coming from? Where's our original sample coming from? Let's wrap this up. So we had our vital drone, of course. We got this beautiful level here on our music box. We did some work on the oscillators here. We have this really slow random LFO that's moving these oscillators in and out volume-wise. Gorgeous stuff. In pigments over here, of course, we're moving this up and down. We have our slow moving LFO3 here that's moving our volume and our filter at the same time. We did the same thing in Omnisphere. And now with our buried sequence, we're doing that again, but we're really letting this stuff flow in and out. Again, you could change some of the notes here out of fifth. Oh yeah. Gorgeous, gorgeous, right? Add some more melodic interest here. And finally, tying it all together with that bass sound. Oh my gosh. This is so good. Let's go back to our PowerPoint one more time. We brought it together at the end, all right? You saw me let the LFOs tell our own story. We had so many different elements that were floating in and out. We adjusted the oscillators, we did randomizing, we did frequency spectrum work. I mean, the whole thing came together. Your track should have impact and moments of discovery that will keep your listener coming back for more on repeated listens. You guys got this. If you enjoyed today's tutorial and you enjoy my tutorial style, please join me on Patreon. I've got hundreds of tutorials just like this one. I've got hundreds of sample packs. We're doing all kinds of great stuff over there. I just released a brand new course, The Art of Chill, a 3-part course. You can check it out at the Ambient Tutorials tier if you want to just purchase it outright. It's available in the shop right now. And I'm so excited about the future because I get to do tutorials like this for you guys. Focused tutorials on specific types of ambient music like Dark Ambient that are really helping you guys level up. So again, if you want to support this channel, join me on Patreon. Check me out. It's been so much fun today. I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'll be back again soon with more Dark Ambient tutorials and other tutorials just like this on Signs of Life. Thanks again for watching. And as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. My name is Chris from Signs of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next video.